Welcome to Decode, a podcast that delves into the complex world of K-12 computer science education, highlighting the significance of storytelling in comprehending educational data.
Hey, Callie, welcome. And to everyone else, welcome to the Decode podcast. I'm Stanley Buchesky, CEO of Pytop. We use STEM and inquiry-based learning to ignite the spark of passion for learning job skills and to show students the relevance of critical core concepts that they otherwise find boring. And with Decode, we explore both barriers and solutions in technology education. I often compare this journey with my experience as a West Point cadet when I was forced to unlearn certain things I thought were true and to relearn other things to become a better leader. Decode is an effort to unlearn some biases, to seek some truth, and find some solutions so that we can provide good education to all kids. So, Callie, thank you so much. You're here. You're the director of CTE at Pitt County Schools in North Carolina. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, having gotten to know you a little bit over the past couple of weeks, I have found I have to imagine you're a person that kind of finds herself sort of, I don't know, just being in charge of things or getting put in charge of things, just the way that you, I look at your career progression, but just seem to have a bit of a passion for the kids, but also for very well organized and someone that people find reliable.
Yeah, it's funny how they now make memes and things now about how if you were called bossy as a kid, you're probably in charge now. And so I've learned to at least control the bossiness part and how to turn that more into how do you lead with that and not just demand from people. And so
That's
somehow
interesting. Now,
yeah,
you just so I haven't asked this before, but do you have siblings?
I have one. I have one brother.
Younger brother?
No.
Oh, okay.
He's actually a year older than me, but most people assume I'm an only sibling by the way that I act. I'm like, nope, there's another one.
Oh, nice. Well, so can you tell us a little bit about your role and your background and how you got into this role in CTE?
Yes. So I am the director of career and technical education for Pitt County Schools. And so what that means is my job is to oversee the program that teaches students about different careers that they could go into either after graduating high school or post-secondary education, a trade school, anything like that. So I got involved because when I got to high school, I took an agriculture class. My family, we have no agriculture background, nothing like that. And so I really enjoyed the classes, thought it was great. And so when I was graduating, I was like, hey, I know that I like sharing what I like about ag, so maybe I should become a teacher in it. So as I became a teacher, I would be working with my students about what they want to do for their careers. And I realized that there were a lot of students out there who are graduating with an I don't know what I want to do plan. And I didn't like that. So I knew that there was a position called a career development coordinator. And I was like, well, maybe that's something that I want to do so that way I can share all students, help all students find a career pathway that they're interested in. And it really helped because when I left college, I worked into very rural counties. There's nothing there. And so that was why I was like, these kids need to learn about career opportunities. They need to know what's out there so that they don't feel like they have to stay here if they don't want to, or they can go out, experience the world, and then come back later. So I ended up, after 6 years of teaching, the district that I work for asked me to move up into a more administrative role where I oversaw career development, but I also oversaw curriculum and instruction for our school, for our county. And then through that, my director at the time knew that my ultimate end goal was to become a CTE director. And so he went ahead and was like, I think you should take these classes now. And I don't know if he knew at that time he was retiring, but he was like, hey, I'm moving out and I would like you to move in. I think you're ready. And it was very nerve-wracking because I am the youngest district or the youngest director in the state. And most people they joke when they're all like, yeah, I've only got like 2 more years to retirement. And I'm like, oh, I'm still at 19 years. And so it's just, I realized that even though like I love agriculture and I love plants, but I want all students to be able to get a really good quality education in the career pathway that they're interested in. And so that way, when kids are graduating or reaching that stage, they're no longer like, I have no idea what I want to do. They have ideas and they have some training that have helped them prepare for what they want to do.
Wow. There's just so much to unpack there. I love the passion for that as well. And certainly the one of the biggest problems is kids, they just don't know what they don't know. And so how do we even like give them kind of a big picture perspective on all of the opportunities? And, you know, there's this new thing. I don't know. It was new to me to hear this acronym. I don't know if it's an acronym. It's just a group of letters, but CCM, college, career, military, readiness, right? And there was for so long this emphasis on everybody's got to go to college. You got to go to college. People that are successful go to college. Therefore, if you go to college, you're going to be successful. And there was sort of like a causal relationship. I don't know. I'm not a statistician, but you know, something was missing there. Like it doesn't just going to college in itself doesn't make you successful. And it kind of was the beginning of the evisceration of our apprentice programs in career fields. And now people after I think people have gone to college and they're in jobs and they're looking at the amount of student debt that they have. And they're looking at some of the trade fields and how in demand they are, and realizing, wow, that's a pretty good paycheck there. It seems like there's a kind of a reversion back to a focus on career fields. But I love how the acronym or string of letters is inclusive of all directions that you could possibly go. And I guess I'm wondering, how is that whole, how is the field changing and how is it really being combined, or how do you see it could be, or, what are the obstacles to having a true college, career, military readiness process versus the silos that we've had in the past?
Well, so, and like what we talked about before is that really connecting like what you're learning in math or English or something, whatever, this is how you would utilize it in this area of like a career or whatever, and trying to move through that. Because you have people that like their favorite class is math. And it's like, well, what career are you going to do that's math based? And it's like, because there's no career called math, but there's 1,000 careers out there that utilize math. And so one of the things like we're really trying to work on is getting more of our teachers collaborating with other teachers in the school system. So if we're doing a project, how can you incorporate, like, how are you showing that this relates to biology, anatomy, math, or anything? Like I remember when I used to teach landscaping, when we'd have to go measure out an area of grass or whatever, but we would use the concept of like, okay guys, what's the formula for measuring a triangle? And it's like, you can use that here. Or if you know how to do the square feet of something, you can learn how much paint you need to buy for a room. Like that's how you take it from math to something that's more practical. And so that's what the biggest goal is. Okay, how do you take that and actually make it to where it's something that they might do with it? So I know like we've done some, like there were programs that were done in Pitt County to bring in core teachers or non-CTE teachers to experience like, okay, these are different classes that we offer at the community college, and this is how it relates to your class. Like this is how it relates to the math, the history, the science. But we still see there's still much disconnect. Like, it's a joke, but we always say like, it still sometimes feel like CTE is our own island, and that it's like, oh, hey, like you guys are just the fun classes, but it's like, no, like these classes are literally preparing someone to go into some field.
Well, at least you got the fun label. I mean, that's
progress.
I
do
think,
call
right?
ourselves
Because I think, I mean, I hate to say it, but the other label that's there is, oh, these are the kids that aren't really good academically,
Right.
and so this is like their only option.
Yeah.
It couldn't be further from the truth, right? And so at least you got the fun label, and now,
Yes, that is true.
now you got to figure out, like, what you described. I just, like, all I was thinking was, you can lead the horse to water, but can't make him drink, right? So you're like serving it up, like, here's how it's all related. But how do you change behavior? Because the behavior right now is driven by standardized tests.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm going to teach in my course as a core subject area teacher is really going to be driven in a large part by what is tested. Everyone in whatever part of the world they are, or business or endeavor, their behavior is driven by incentives generally. And so how do you think, like, what do you think the incentives are currently, and how could they be changed? Or what are some of the barriers that, don't necessarily need to be there, that could kind of break down these silos?
I think it's still I still think it's still taboo to want to go out into a trades field. We've experienced here, we have a program that literally students they start the application process their junior year. They're picked up by a company to start an apprenticeship. And then when they graduate, they have a job. We still have parents that fight us and fight their kids on signing up for this. And they're like, no, you need to go to college. You need to go to college. Yeah. And it's like your kid literally is being hired by a company, and they're going to start out the gate making this much as a minimum wage. And like, there's still the mindset as that there's something wrong with somebody, I guess, if they don't go to college, or I don't know if they're not smart enough. And it's like, a lot of these people that work in the trades or work in these they're very smart. I have no idea how to fix my air conditioning, and I consider myself a pretty smart person, but that's not the area I know. But there's still, for some reason, that stigma that going into these fields and going into a job that doesn't require a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or doctorate, they're still considered lower, I guess, class careers, when some of these careers are making way more money than I am, and I'm a director. Yeah.
Well, the good thing is you have parental involvement, and parents that want the best for their kids. So it sounds like maybe some better marketing on the opportunities. I mean, I was looking at state of North Carolina. I often look at computing jobs. Code.org has a lot of good stats on computing related fields, and I think it's interesting, there are over 10,000 open jobs in computing fields with an average salary of $109,000 per year. Seems to me, you just flash up some slides like that, which talk about the actual data, and you start to create a mindset shift in terms of what's the end goal here. Is it the piece of paper, or is it a productive, fulfilling, well-paying job? But I think there's definitely a marketing effort there. Well, I'd love to talk about ag tech a little bit, since that is your background. I didn't realize that you didn't have any background in ag tech and you went into the field.
Nope.
Me neither. I'm not exactly in the field, but I have a garden, and my father had a garden, and his father had a garden, and I actually, as you were mentioning that, I run Pytop, which is kind of a hardware and curriculum company with this learning platform. As the CEO, I sometimes don't have a chance to get as hands-on as I would like, but I actually am going on vacation for a couple of weeks, believe it or not. And all of my plants are going to die if I'm not there. So I decided to take a little endeavor into ag tech. And so I ordered off of Amazon some analog moisture sensors, an analog to digital converter, and some miniature hose pumps. And so I'm building an irrigation system for all of my plants, so that I'll have one large watering system that each plant has a moisture sensor in it and is actually activated when the plant itself becomes too dry, rather than just a daily watering of each of them. So I don't know, it may be overkill, but
I don't know if I've ever heard someone just with their regular plants having an automatic irrigation system like that.
Well, the reason I'm doing it is because I think that ag tech is just really poised for a big sea change in terms of use of technology. I mean, we've already got companies that are building robots that do weeding, right? I've seen I don't know if you've driven by some of these neighborhoods with, people got a lot of money and no time to mow their lawn, and there's these robots that mow your lawn now. It's just like
kind of like the vacuum cleaner
going all over the place, and it just like bumps into a plant and says, "Okay, time to turn." It's like it's like the iRobot, like the vacuum cleaner thing. It's the exact same technology. So I don't know. How do you view this field? Sort of,
so, it's like, I love the ingenuity of it. The hard part though is like, man, that's some like neighborhood kid though who could be like, hey, this is like my summer job that I mow the grass. And I'll be like, I don't need you to. Or like someone, like my friends used to pay me to stay at their house just to water their plants because she had a flower business. And I'm like, well, man, if she had that, I would have never had that. That would have been like,
okay, all right. So let's have a discussion then.
So that's the hard part that I'm like,
this is
cool.
an economic discussion. So throughout the history of the world, we've had improvements in technology.
I know, and people still have jobs.
All the jobs are going to go away. And what has happened? We've always had more jobs. So because we're freeing up people to do, higher order thinking, right? So let's talk about AI then, because that's like the natural direction to go with this, right? There's this stat that says, it's not even a statistic. It's some consulting firm decided to do a study, and 80% of the jobs that our fifth graders will have, our current fifth graders will have, haven't been invented yet. So how are we preparing them for these future jobs?
Yeah. So that's one of the things that can be difficult. That's like, okay, how do we go ahead and start teaching you about things that aren't here just yet? And so that's where, when like it comes to talking about agriculture or health science or any of the things, like teachers staying up to date on what is going on in the industry, but then also making that relevant to the students, letting them see, like having them see the new technology that's coming out, the different things that are happening, but then how it can relate to other jobs. So like one of the biggest things we used to talk about is like ag is no longer solely farming. So now, like, because of all the technology coming out, you can have someone that's a computer programmer or maintenance or whatever, IT, and they can go into the ag field. And so it's really getting people to realize that one area has a very broad route, but there's so many different types of careers inside of it. It's no longer just specific to this. And so that's one of the also like stipulations of trying to get people that it's like, people like, well, I don't want to go into health sciences because I don't like blood. There's lots of jobs you can do that don't do blood. And so same with, with all the robots, where it's like someone has to be programming it, someone has to fix it, or like a lot of greenhouses now. Like that's one of the things that we're working on with our teachers is in their greenhouses. That's one of their concerns. Like, okay, when a cold front comes in, I've had teachers that have lost a whole crop because their heat cut out and they didn't know it until they came back after the weekend and all their plants were dead.
Right.
But now there's the programs that they can literally get an alert on their phone to say, hey, the heat has not come on. Something's not come on. And so it allows them to be either to get out there to change up something or call in our facilities and be like, hey, there's a problem. And so it's like that's great, especially in the instance of if the whole purpose of those plants is to sell them to raise money for like an organization or whatever. You don't want to lose all that hard work that those students have put in. I mean, nothing is more upsetting than starting a plant from seed, watching it grow, and then seeing it die for in a reason that you couldn't prevent or whatever.
Wow. Talk about an analogy like about teaching our children, planting the seeds and, seeing them wilt when we don't give them really good, opportunities or prepare them for opportunities.
Yeah. And so that's where like, it is really cool to see. And like, I love that kids are seeing like how industries are changing, but it's not what you see today. It's going to be very different because and again, like, cause they may not like exactly the field, exactly how it is like, I don't want to do this or that part of it, but it's like, yeah, but you don't know what's coming. So even if you start an interest now, like you might say, well, I'm interested in this field, but I haven't fully figured out what I want to do. And it's like, well, that's okay as long as you know, like, hey, I'm interested in this field and just continuing to explore. That's one of my biggest things with students, even like elementary and everybody is take the time to explore. So if you find an area that you think is really cool, like I couldn't pick an area in ag that I wanted to focus on, but I knew teaching it would allow me to focus on a lot of areas. And so that's a lot of things with students is, you want to go into this area, you haven't picked it yet. So explore all the different options, like do your research on what's coming down the pipeline. And that's why my biggest thing is I encourage our teachers, take their kids on field trips, take them to these areas that you're talking about so that they can talk to the people in the field because they're going to also be the ones knowing what's coming down the line. Like they know, in the next 5 years, we're trying to implement X, Y, Z. And so we're going to be needing people who can do this or that. That's really the best way for them to be seeing it.
It's interesting that some things won't change and other things will change pretty dramatically. I saw a movie several years back and it was actually a futuristic movie. And it started out with this woman on a homestead and she walks outside of her house and starts chopping wood. So you think it's actually a movie that took place many years ago. She gets done chopping the wood and then walks over to her drone, presses a button, and it goes through and starts spraying her crops.
Wow.
And it's sort of like, a hybrid of things, but it really highlighted, and maybe it's not really accurate, but it highlighted what technology can do and the fact that it can't do everything. There's certain limitations. Could we, build a robot to chop a tree down and split the wood? Of course. There are plenty of things like log splitters, et cetera, that she could have been using. But the point was like the amount of wood she needed, it was easier to just chop it with an axe. But I think there's sort of like a divergence. And so I'm also curious, the main technology we have in front of us right now is AI. And my biggest concern right now is that schools are so concerned about having a policy for responsible AI use that the world is passing them by.
Yeah.
What can we do to accelerate schools and districts' use of AI and teaching their teachers how to teach the students to use AI? Because there's a whole learning process just for the teachers and administration that has to happen.
Yeah. So, to me, the biggest thing is really just to dive in. Like, we've gone through a year, like last year is when we started talking about our AI policy. I don't even know if it's still come out yet. No idea. But it was like, oh, we need to wait. But sometimes it's like, just dive into it. Like part of the learning about it is kids using it and seeing like how, okay, you do have to be conscious of things that are fake versus things that are real. But like showing them all the really cool things. And like we have teachers that are like, oh, I don't want my kids to use it. But then when they see all the really cool
Yeah.
things that they can generate for themselves to make their life easier. They're like, oh, and it's like, just because a kid uses AI for something doesn't mean it's cheating. Like it's like the whole concept. Apparently,
Yeah.
people used to be livid about allowing a kid to use a calculator. And now no one would even bat an eye at someone using a calculator to do math. So then the worry is, okay, what if they use AI? And I'm like, yeah, but if they use AI and AI can sit there and explain to them how it's done when they're at home doing their homework and they don't have anybody there, like that's so helpful. Like I had AI write a math formula for me one day because I was like, I've got to figure out how to get this number and I don't know how to do it. But then I could tell the form what exactly I wanted. So now it was like, it's like both things. Like I didn't know the formula, but I knew exactly how to explain it. And so it's like, that's still, how is that? That's still learning. That's still a kid learning, knowing exactly what they need and how to formulate it in their mind and with words, but they just didn't know how to put it into an actual formula. And so that's where it's like, there's still a lot of growth that can come from using AI in a bunch of different ways. And like, I really think that the biggest way is like just having teachers do different things with it that they don't even realize that AI can be useful.
I think that's a great approach, and getting buy-in is so key. It could be because the light bulb will go off.
Yeah.
Wait, I didn't know that it could do this, and it makes it easier in my life, so I can't ban it anymore. Yeah. I had the most interesting conversation last week. It was I play soccer, and one of the guys on my team brought his son along, and he had just graduated from college, and he's going into a finance job, but he was explaining to me that he has this passion for education. I'm like, well, it just so happens that I work in this field. And we had this really great conversation, and I was asking about how he uses AI and how it was used in his college. He went to a pretty good school, Villanova, and he was telling me how his mindset shifted from, oh, it's just for cheating. And of course, everyone's focus is on preventing from cheating. And they use these services to check whether you cheated on your essay or not. And I was floored. I asked him, well, he's like, well, eventually I realized, well, I need to get the essay done. And there's certain things that it actually helps with. And when I get into the job market, like I'm going to use it to save myself time. I'm going to use it to write. Yeah. So how can I do this? And so he walked me through the whole process of AI-ifying his essay, or I don't know if that's what it should be called, but like AI proofing it, so that in the end, it wouldn't get flagged for having been used with AI. And what I loved about it is he solved a problem. He went through a pretty rigorous process to get to like a goal, which was to use AI to help him, but for it not to be flagged. And he was showing me telling me how he was using one AI writing service, and then he would train the model, which means feed in data or information to the model, which included his writing and other essays that he's done. And then he learned then he started doing specific prompts to change the style of writing. Because I don't know about you, but when I see something that someone has written with AI, I know it right away. If it's just basic prompts, it's so empathetic and verbose, and it's like, I recognize that you, but you may want to consider that. I'm just like, I do not write that way. And he doesn't write that way either. So he fed it in this data and said, rewrite the essay in the type of style that I write with. And he did a few other things. And then in the end, he put his essay into an AI review platform and said, how much, was this essay written by AI? And it basically said 1% AI, boom, submit it for the grade. And I mean, that's an A++ in my mind if you write an essay that way. So I don't know, like how do we change our teacher administrative mindset to actually praised that sort of problem solving behavior and the learning that he went through on his own to get to, solve that problem. I mean, the problem was like the educational structure and incentive that's in place. So you said buy-in. What else can we do?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to have to be, because I mean, I know so much negative stuff, I guess, still comes out about AI, like the fake videos that are made and different things. And so, but I think the other is just the mind shifts change of, there's not, like, I remember, like, you couldn't have open note test because you just need to have it all memorized. But yet when you went into a job, no one expected you to have it all memorized. Right. So it's the same concept of ChatGPT or AI, whatever it is. Yeah. The concept is, instead of me having to go through 15 different books to find some information, I can now gather information from this platform. Now I can still fact check it to make sure it's correct, but it's like, I think it has to be a mind shift change that that's like, the hard part about learning shouldn't be me having to go do the research. That shouldn't be it. It shouldn't be that I have to spend 5 hours in a library or whatever gathering information to justify the paper that I wrote, versus, okay, I've gathered some information, I've gotten some thoughts around, like I've got some ideas, and now I can put in the work or do the project or show what I've learned and what I know. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really going to be it. Like, people have to stop seeing it as it's a cheating platform versus it is a learning platform. It's just, it's a different type of learning platform than what we're used to. Mm-hmm. But I think the education system a lot is that you have to earn it. So you have to spend your time in books and notebooks versus, because it was saying, like, people used to hate people Googling information. And I'm like, nobody cares to go spend their time in a library anymore researching. Mm-hmm. So this is just another platform to help speed up that process. So now you can actually get to what you need to do.
So it's funny you would use that as an example, the research, because that's exactly what we're doing in our product this summer. Is we're actually working with a couple of teachers in Texas as an externship program that they have. And we're using AI in a research process. And it's all cross-curricular. It's tied, I think I mentioned to you, this catapult project that we have, using a catapult to show relevance of the quadratic equation. And incidentally, I was driving my son to his soccer practice yesterday, and not knowing anything about this, he randomly told me, he's like, "Dad, I am never, ever," and he literally said ever, "going to need to know or ever use the quadratic equation." I'm like, "Well, what is it for?" And he said, "I have no idea, but I know how to solve it." So we're actually going to be using ChatGPT or any AI. It's going to be kind of AI of your choice to do research. And the first thing what I found as I started experimenting with this is do a prompt of, how can I make a projectile go further? And for you and me, with our human brains, we brainstorm a little bit and we come up with probably 3 or 4 ways, make the arm longer, throw it, harder for us or whatever. And it spit out, it's just comprehensive.
Yeah.
8 different ways to make it go further. And then you can do follow-on prompts and say, okay, I want to explore this area. And now I want to design something. And I want to hear the tools available to me to design something to make it go further. And this is the process that we need to teach our kids. We don't need an AI helper to ask, to ask little questions and things. Like, we need to teach kids how to leverage technology to go through the problem solving process, design thinking, computational thinking. This is what we're freeing our minds up to do, is higher order thinking, not the memorize and repetitive tasks. Do I need the syntax for code? Do I need a parentheses here? Do I need a quotation mark, a single quotation? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Those aren't the things that are, value added for us. So I'm super excited about that. I think research is the perfect area because you're implementing, English skills as well. Talk to me about, I mean, you're a very positive person. And I think
Thank you. The people in my office would not agree.
Well, it's just because they don't agree with you. I just want to wrap up with kind of just a positive message. We covered a lot of ground, both in terms of teaching and AI and future of education. What sort of positive message can you leave us with in terms of future of education and workforce?
Well, I mean, my biggest thing is like technology is here to stay. AI is here to stay. And I think it's only going to get somewhat more advanced. And so it's just one of the things people just have to realize that, and it's better to get on board and be able to keep moving forward than to just try to just put up a block to it. Because that's really going to hinder our students and hinder their learning if you're not allowing them to see or know about what is coming for the future. But that there's a lot of good things that's come from technology. And I think that's kind of sometimes the thing that's okay, we have this now. This is what it used to be like how many years ago, and this is what it was like beforehand. So do you want to still live in that world? I'm sure people thought an AC unit was the devil, but nobody now wants to live in a house that doesn't have air conditioning. And so it's just getting that mindset of the fear. You can't be afraid to move forward in life.
Yeah.
And it's in all aspects, like in the industry, in the world, like you said, it's not going to make it where people don't have jobs anymore. It's just changing what type of jobs might be out there and what we need to be preparing our students for.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. And I think, the changing of jobs is key. And the average tenure of an employee now is less than 4 years at a company, whereas my father worked his entire career at one company. And so, that sort of retraining process has shortened dramatically. And, we are in a world of just continuous learning. And I totally agree with you. We need to accept it, run with it. And AI can already ace every single standardized test out there. So maybe we need to think about a different way of evaluating students. Well, Callie, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and as well as getting to know you, and look forward to seeing the great things that you're continuing to do in Pitt County.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. If you found this conversation valuable, please leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. We will see you next time on Decode.